if it's hammering down with rain and you finish training with us, it is put a towel on your car seat and drive home. And then you come home and you're trying to get your mud-caked shoes off, and it's just, you've got to love playing rugby to play for like grassroots teams like ours.
Hello amateurs, welcome to episode 55 of the Amateur Rugby Podcast, here to help soothe your Sunday morning hangover with some deep rugby chats about the grassroots of the game. I'm your host Tim, and today I'm in Essaouira, Morocco. It's called the Windy City, and you might be able to pick up some of that breeze at the moment. Humans like they are taking advantage of the wind. I can see a wind farm over there along the beach, and there's people out kite surfing as well. That's something I think I'd like to get into at some point. But I travelled up the coast this week from Tagazout via Imsouane, and at one point I even donned a wetsuit and grabbed a surfboard and entered the sea. But more on that after today's interview, which is with LooseHeadz Academy Team Leader, head honcho, main man, Mr. Joey Milburn. This interview was recorded in September of 2021 when Joey and his wife Bex were kind enough to put me up for the night during the Great Rugger Run. They also fed me, sorted my laundry, and even drove my bag all the way to Withycombe the following day. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Bex. During this interview, we talk about real grassroots rugby. We talk about Joey's journey with mental health and how he came to be involved with LooseHeadz. And finally, his experience as a Harlequin's mega fan and his growing collection of rugby stash. I adore being around people who love rugby as much as Joey does. I found it incredibly uplifting. So please welcome Joey Milburn. Joey Milburn, welcome to the Amateur Rugby Podcast.
Hello.
Good to see you, mate.
And you.
Thanks very much for having me in your house this evening. It's very nice of you.
It is my pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, mate. So let's go to the beginning of your rugby journey. When did you start playing rugby, and what do you enjoy about it?
So like I say, the majority of people, I picked it up when I was younger. Kind of didn't really like football. I liked the thought of rugby, picked it up, in and out of it when I was younger. Never really got too involved, really. I just kind of enjoyed tackling, enjoyed passing. I was never fantastic at it, but I enjoyed it. Played it throughout secondary school. My tutor decided it would be a good job to make me a scrum half and the captain, because I had some like anger issues and discipline issues. So he kind of threw me in the deep end and said, now you've got to sort yourself out. So really good. Played during then, went into college, played at college. And then I kind of dropped it for a little bit. When I went to uni, I did some sort of like tryouts and things, but I just didn't really feel like it was for me.
Yeah. Why not? What kind of things were going against it at the time?
I think when I was at college, obviously it was more like a social aspect of it. And yes, we did play it to like a good standard. But when you go to university, you're all of a sudden, you're either the best of the best or you're in the seventh team kind of thing. And for people who just want to play at a social level, they look at it as, okay, you prefer drinking to playing rugby, but actually I like playing rugby for the fun of rugby.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, obviously you've got like these lads that come from like all boys schools where their funding is in the thousands for rugby specific. So they do come along, and well, you can only see that a lot of them are now in the England squad and things like that. So obviously the level when you're at university is top tier, middle tier, bottom tier. There's no kind of social fun aspect of it. Yes, it is social and it is fun, so I never want to say it's not. But yeah, I just didn't really find it was for me. So I didn't play.
Where did you go to uni?
Exeter University.
Oh, right, cool. Yeah.
So I came to university down here in Exeter, and I've stayed down here ever since. I love Devon. And yeah, I was always into rugby. Like I'd always like, if I was ever on holiday, play a bit of beach rugby and things like that. And I'd chuck around a rugby ball. I'd never really have a football. It'd always be a rugby ball in my room somewhere, and I'd chuck that around. And And then working, I used to have to work weekends, so I could never play rugby. And then a couple of years ago, I didn't have to work Saturdays anymore. And it just worked perfect because then I could actually pick up rugby. So my brother-in-law plays for a local team. And I said, well, can I come along? And he said, yeah, crack on, come along. So I went and played for them. And yeah, I've been with New Cross now for, it's my third season with them. Obviously last season was a write-off, but we played a little bit. First season, I joined quite near the beginning and played for them. So I'm a winger.
Right. Anger issues have gone, have they?
I just know where to take them out on the pitch now. Yeah. So I do enjoy, I really do. I live for the whole aspect of rugby. At the end of the day, to me, it's more than just a sport. It's the social aspect of it. It's having that kind of family. It's the training, the fitness, everything. I just enjoy it. This season, I'm kind of dipping my toes a little bit in and out of it. Meant to have surgery cancelled. So now it's a case of, do I go back? Do I potentially risk damaging? And then it's like, I don't know. So this season, I'm a little bit unsure, but I probably will play a few games.
What have you got to have done?
So I've got to have keyhole surgery done on my left shoulder. I dislocated it about 4.5 years ago. From then, it's just never healed properly. So my cartilage in my left shoulder is completely worn away. So it's one of these surgeries that I've been waiting for so long for. I don't want to risk making it too bad, but if I make it worse, do I then get the surgery quicker? So it's a difficult one. I don't want to put the strain on the NHS, but I also really want to play rugby. So
it's a conundrum.
Yeah, catch-22.
Yeah, for sure. Now, tell me a little bit more about New Cross. Where is it based exactly? And tell me about the team and the club and the ethos and everything about it. So
New Cross is based in Kingstainton in Newton Abbot. So we have two teams in Newton Abbot. We have Newton Abbot All Whites and then we have New Cross. New Cross was established in 2007. It was kind of like a couple of lads from Newton Abbot All Whites kind of said, okay, we want to start our own club. So they started their own club called New Cross. We're in Devon League 1. So we play against teams like Buckfastleigh, Exeter Saracens, Exeter Athletic are now in our league. Like Tamar Saracens, teams like that. So it's all in Devon. It's really, really nice. Furthest we have to travel is like North Devon for a few games. The ethos of our team is like very much we're a social team that enjoy playing rugby, but don't get us wrong. When we say we enjoy playing rugby, there's a reason why we're top of the table. Right. So we do enjoy our rugby. And yeah, like every team, when you go out there, you want to win. But also we want to get back to that bar and have a couple of pints and see who can win a boat race type thing. Yeah. So yeah, really, really good ethos. Train twice a week, 6:30 p.m. And yeah, honestly, it's a really, really nice social club. And then you get to play rugby. So yeah, New Cross is definitely sort of the kind of team that I want to be with based on my experience growing up playing it and sort of the experience I had with university.
Yeah, and as I was speaking to you during this week about coming along and visiting on the Great Rugby Run, you were kind of like, oh, well, we haven't got any facilities and it's not this and it's not that. But I really love the fact that, you know, proper grassroots rugby is still very much alive and well. And you guys are playing it for the purest reasons, really, because you haven't got any of the, you know, the change rooms or the clubhouse or, you know, just describe the setup a little bit.
Yeah. So our pitch is kind of like rented land from the local school. Our changing rooms are at the local school, which is probably about 300 meters away through a housing estate. So you can imagine we get changed before the game. Now you got to imagine everyone's wearing their boots, walking through this housing estate on a Saturday afternoon, and you're just hearing like the cleats going along the floor. You got the opposition team walking on the other side of the road, and you're kind of looking across at them thinking, oh, it's on today. And then you get to the point where you all have to go through the gate and you're like, oh, after you, after you. And, yeah, so then we play on this pitch that is really well maintained by members of our own team, like our coaching team, also play for our team. So it's not like we've just got coaches, like our coaches are players. It's amazing. And then afterwards, it's the slow, wet, painful walk back to the changing rooms. As I said, it's a school changing rooms. Nothing fancy, but so grateful that we have it. And then to the local pub. The pub is our clubhouse. I mean, yes, if you have a clubhouse, you get cheaper drinks, but there is something about walking into a pub and having that as your clubhouse. All of our sponsors are local. So we've got like local food vendors, local travel that all sponsor our team. And then obviously the pub, which is the 10 Tours Inn. One of our players is a manager there. So that's how we've obviously got that set up. And sort of everyone who sponsors our team are like close family, friends really. Like we've got that really tight knit group. And yeah, it's real grassroots rugby.
Yeah, it must be nice walking into a pub after a game and knowing that that's really a part of you and your group, and certainly on a Saturday afternoon anyway. Or is it like that all through the week as well? Or
yeah, so obviously on like the Saturday afternoon, obviously everyone turns up in their like black shirt and tie, and you kind of walk in and everyone's there like, oh, what are they all here for? And it is quite nice. And then obviously certain like team members do obviously all see each other like in the week. We don't go to the pub like after training and things like that, because a lot of our players are family. Like we've got a lot of family men in our team, so it's very much you finish work, you train, you go home, and it's your job to put the kids to bed. So yeah, it is. I do really I enjoy the fact that we don't have the facilities that these bigger grassroots clubs have, because it kind of makes you realise a bit more how we've started and why we play.
Yeah. Like,
yes, if you had a physio and things like that, like sometimes you start to play for the wrong reasons. You start to go, oh, actually, I've got a nice clubhouse, got a physio, I've got changing rooms, I've got showers. After training, I can have a shower and something to eat. Whereas if it's hammering down with rain and you finish training with us, it is put a towel on your car seat and drive home. And then you come home and you're trying to get your mud-caked shoes off, and it's just, you've got to love playing rugby to play for grassroots teams like ours, because if you didn't enjoy it, you wouldn't do it. And I think that's the thing, is every single person that plays for us loves it.
Yeah. How many people have you got involved with the club?
God, I've never really thought about that. We've probably got about 40 to 50 members that kind of come in and out throughout the season and things like that. And obviously, as I said, our coaches are kind of members. We've obviously got we've got a committee, and obviously they oversee things like that. But yeah, I mean, to a general training session, we probably get between 20 to 30 players come to a training session, which is really, really good. I mean, as we get into the winter, it'll probably dip down to 10 to 15, but it happens for certain reasons. People with work, dark nights, cold nights, it happens at all levels. I've been
at clubs way higher than that level when you struggle to get people to come training, similar numbers. So to be able to get that amount, is a really real credit, I think.
Yeah, and I think every week we've always got a good 26 to 30 people that put their names to say, yeah, I can play. And obviously then the coaches have got to make that hard decision of saying, okay, we can only pick our 23. So yeah, it is really, really good that we have those numbers, and obviously we want to keep on growing. The more we can have, we can then look at having friendlies, other teams, things like that. So we're not just a club that say, yeah, we just want a men's first. We want to grow as a club, like all clubs do. It's just making sure we get the funding and things like that. And I think the only way we're going to do that is by growing our numbers, pretty much.
So you do have some ambitions to make the club bigger and expand a little bit?
With all clubs, there's always an ambition to get more players on board. And the more players you get on board, the more people become available for games. And I suppose once you get to a sort of a standard where you've always got 30 people every week that can play, you might as well put another team together, because you don't want to have to turn down 15 people each week. So yeah, I believe that there's an ambition to grow the club, and if there isn't, I believe there should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with everything, you always want to aim higher.
Yeah, good for you. Now let's transition here a little bit. I see a T-shirt that you're wearing with rugby posts on the front.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Just in the broadest sense at the moment, and then we'll dig into some details.
Yes. So the T-shirt that I'm wearing is LooseHeadz. So you're obviously doing your great rugby run at the moment, and one of the charities that you're doing it for is LooseHeadz. Mm-hmm. It's a mental health charity. Now, different to a lot of mental health charities, we're not out there saying, call us if you need to chat. What our whole mantra is, what we are aiming to do is to get people to actually talk. If we can make people realise it's okay to talk, then essentially we can make the jobs easier of the people that are getting called. Because we would rather they get 100 calls a day than 2 calls a day. Because if 100 people are calling to say, I need to talk, that's 100 people that we can help. If only 2 people are calling, there's 98 people out there that still aren't confident to talk. So LooseHeadz slogan essentially is tackle the stigma. Quite sort of a play on words, obviously tackling being rugby related. And obviously the stigma being mental health. There is a real taboo in this country and in the world of talking about mental health and admitting that you have mental health problems. Same as there's a taboo about talking about suicide. I mean, on average, we have 18 suicides per day in the UK. It's not good enough. And 1 is too many. And obviously, we're never going to stop it unless we talk about it. Because if we don't talk about it, we just act like it never happens. So obviously LooseHeadz' whole thing is we want to make sure people are actually talking, and the rugby posts on the T-shirt actually make up an L and a H, which obviously stands for LooseHeadz. So the perk of it is when people look at it and go, oh, rugby post, like that's a really cool rugby top, where's it from? And then you can go, well, actually it's not rugby post, it makes an L and a H and it's for LooseHeadz, and people go, well, what's that? And that's the whole point of it, is it's a vocal point for people to then go, oh, I didn't know about that. And then they can think, oh, actually, there's people out there like me. And it's meant to just carry on going. Once we get the ball rolling, we kind of don't want it to stop. We almost want a snowball effect, and we want people to talk, and then more and more and more and more, until hopefully the whole of the UK, the whole world are talking openly about mental health and their own issues. And obviously there is the registered charity, which is the LooseHeadz Foundation. So the point of that is we want to try and get a loose head. So a loose head being a mental health spokesperson, a well-being officer in all 1,800 grassroots rugby clubs in the UK. Now, anyone listening to this, and you probably are thinking, that's crazy. Like, that's ridiculous. Probably not going to do that for a long time. But the way we look at it is we will never know if we do it. So why stop? Even if we do it, let's keep going. And we'll just keep going and going and going. If we can get 2 people in each club, we can get 3. If we can get the whole club to be on board, all 1,800 grassroots clubs in the UK on board, every single member, I think that's the only time we can say we've maybe won.
Yeah.
But then why will we stop at the UK? We'll just keep going.
Keep going and going. It's interesting, actually, since I've become involved in this more deeply, obviously I've had more conversations around mental health and the charities themselves, and obviously I knew suicide is a big problem, but I wasn't aware of the fact the average of 18 a day every day of people committing suicide in the UK, which, as you quite rightly say, is just, well, it's tragic, and it's way too many. So again, us having this conversation here now and people listening to this, hopefully it just raises even more awareness, and people can do more for mental health going forwards. Yeah,
I think the thing to remember for everyone listening is we're not going to stop it. But what we can do is we can slow the process down to a point where somebody else can stop it. If we don't slow it down, it happens too quick for anyone else to pick up on it. So if you're talking to somebody or you're talking near somebody about it, you may be slowing down that process of that person leading to suicide. that person may then take that extra day to say, I can call a counsellor, I can call a doctor. But if they're not aware the help's out there, they're not going to. And sometimes you can't stop people if they don't know. So the whole point is that we make people aware. It's the mental health awareness. We make people aware that every single person has mental health or will have a mental health issue at some point. It could even be a famous actor being nervous to go in front of a camera for the first time. Well, that anxious feeling they've got is anxiety. Yes, it's not as severe as some people who can't even step out their front door. But at some point, for 5 minutes, they've got an anxious feeling, they've got anxiety. And everyone gets a little bit scared, everyone feels a little bit down sometimes, but some people feel down that little bit worse and for that little bit longer. And obviously that's the first steps of depression. And you've really got to think to yourself, if you ever felt low for a week or so, is that mild depression? Obviously there's a difference between mild depression and clinically depressed, but it's still a mental illness because you're feeling low and you can't cheer yourself up. So the way that we try and look at it is everyone has mental health issues or mental ill health, but not all people know how to control it. And for some people, it's not as bad as others. So those who aren't suffering as bad, let's try and get the others to the same level as us.
Yeah, well said. Now, you said we're quite a lot there, we and we're. So you're, I know, very much involved with LooseHeadz. Can you talk a little bit about what your title is and what your role is and exactly what you do on a sort of daily basis?
Yeah, so it's not really sort of like an official title, official role. So essentially I've been involved with LooseHeadz since the end of 2019. So LooseHeadz was established in 2017. Being three blokes, as you can imagine, didn't really get up to much for 2 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard enough to get blokes to do something. It's even harder when it's a really big task to get on with. So full props to Rob, Mark and Dave for setting it up. Would have been nice if they set it up 2 years earlier, but I understand why they didn't. And we do believe in the crawl, walk, run sort of thesis. Like, everything is, if you can't do it slowly, let's not do it fast. Okay. Yeah. So 2019, end of 2019, it kind of all started booming and I got really involved with them then. And into early 2020, they were like, oh, we're making this academy. It's essentially like-minded people, grassroots players who all believe that we can make a difference and want to make a difference. So I was in this kind of phase one that you would say sort of, there was about 15 of us that all kind of got invited into this academy, and it was amazing. Like, you're talking to people all over the country that all are on the same wavelength as you of, yeah, I felt low. I've had a real tough time. I want to make a difference and no one else feels like that. Mm. And everyone was honest, open, and it was just a bit of a rugby banter group as well. Like you've probably seen, you've got your own like ones of the images, the videos that go on there. Probably not appropriate, but
sometimes. But
yeah, it just felt like this kind of, you've got this extra like little rugby club where everyone's on the same page. From there, obviously, I got really, really involved. Like, I really just felt at home. And I put as much time and effort as I could. I mean, the now wife wasn't too impressed with the amount of time I put into it. But for me, it was really important because for once in my life, I felt like I could openly talk about anything. And there was no judgment. And it was really, really nice. So carrying on, obviously, I used to run these like academy nights where I'd get like a special guest on. So like Matt Jess would come on for a chat. The rugby guy would come on. We'd get like Guy Thompson and Tom Cruise come on and they'd be like bouncing off each other. We'd get like Clara Nilsson come on from now Exeter Chiefs and like Sydney Gregson, players like that. Like, and you can imagine these academy members are all like, oh my God, this is a professional rugby player taking the time to talk to us. I mean, I remember one we had Ollie Woodburn come on and everyone just kind of went, oh, you're actually Ollie Woodburn. And it was like, and he was like, yeah, I'm just a person. And it was really, really great. So I ran these, and from there, like, obviously I just got involved as much as I could. I was helping people out with questions to try and take the strain off of Rob, Mark, Dave. Fast forwarding, they kind of said, like, we need someone to step up and run the academy, because LooseHeadz as a whole is really like launching now, and we're really going places, and we can't be everywhere. So it ended up, it was like a bit of a vote type thing, which was fantastic to see that so many people put their names forward for it as well. And so obviously I got voted in to kind of run this academy, academy team leader, academy captain, I suppose. If you look at it in like rugby terms, I suppose I'm like the captain. My role is kind of just to try and keep it active, keep it on the right topics and things. And obviously I want to make sure that feedback is going back to the right people, and if we can make improvements, we can. If we need to make any changes, it's kind of my role with the leadership team to kind of make those changes. So like, we're obviously looking at the academy heading in different ways and what would work, what wouldn't work. And it's all very new still, even though it was set up in early 2020, it's still very, very new. And we've always got people joining, and obviously people leave and things like that. But yeah, so the academy in a nutshell is a place where people who are like-minded can all come together and not feel judgment and want to make a difference. You've got your supporters who agree with the values and they want to help it along. Then you kind of got like your super fans, which is like us. We agree with the values, we want to help it along, but we're actually doing something to help it along as well, which we understand not everyone can do. But yeah, it's fantastic. I wouldn't change it for the world.
So what kind of activities are you doing? You're doing some talks and things like that, is that right?
Yes. So what we are doing at the moment is, so obviously any academy members that feel confident in doing so, we're essentially doing these like presentations, seminars type thing, which we're offering to rugby clubs, university rugby clubs, workplaces, and obviously we want to expand to like colleges, schools, things like that, because at the end of the day, if we can tackle mental health at a younger age, it's a taboo subject, and obviously we do want to care for the precious ears of our children, but if we don't talk about it to these 13, 14-year-olds, I mean, one of the highest rates of suicide is in 18 to 24-year-olds. If we don't make them aware when they're 13, 14, when they get to 18 and they feel like it, they don't know there's help there because they've never been told. So yeah, so pretty much we're doing these sort of presentations talking about what LooseHeadz is, and what it is it's to make people aware what LooseHeadz is, what the academy is, what our partnership program is, and things like that. It's not necessarily saying if you feel like you need to talk to someone, this is the number to call, because as long as we can make them aware that there's places to talk, and we can make them aware of what LooseHeadz is, it helps to break that barrier. At the end of the day, we don't want to break the barrier and then force feed them information on where to get help, because that's not what we're about. We're about like making people aware. And as you can understand, some people don't want to be force fed. These are all the numbers you need to call. This is why you need to call them. Some people just want to go, oh, cool, there's a brand out there that support mental health awareness, and if I get involved, I'll learn that information whilst I'm with them. And that's what we want to do. We basically want to make people aware of what we are, what we do, and why we do it. Yeah.
And you're right, I think, because being too pressured in that kind of situation could absolutely push people away and turn them the other direction. Now, we mentioned the t-shirt earlier. From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're essentially now a clothing company, and using the clothing company to push this message. Is that kind of how it's set up?
Yeah, so we have got a registered charity. So we've got the LooseHeadz Foundation, which is a registered charity, and that is the charity that we are essentially selling this clothing to fund. So essentially all of our clothes sales, it's a non-profit charity. So all of our clothing sales go into the foundation. So the profits go into the foundation. The foundation is how we're going to be able to fund a loose head trained up in every single rugby club. So the 1,800 rugby clubs, because without the funding, we can't train. Without the training, it's just a person wearing a t-shirt. So yeah, the best way to look at it is we are a clothing brand with a purpose. We're not just your normal buy our t-shirts so we can line our pockets. Every single person's non-profit. So it is very much anything that we make goes straight back onto either helping to try and pay for some new clothing or straight into that foundation so that we can actually start our journey with it. Because at the moment, obviously, we don't have the funds to be able to start it. We're building them, but until we reach our goal, we can't start, because the worst thing we could do is start spending the foundation money and get 100 clubs done and then have to build it up for another year. We'd rather hit it and say, right, let's hit the floor running and let's do this. So yes, you are right in terms of it is a clothing brand, but we do have a deeper meaning. We have a purpose.
Of course, yeah. So that's the tactics at the moment, is it? That's kind of the key metrics. You're looking to build a big enough fund so that you can hit, get people out there and then keep pushing and not have to kind of press pause, like you said. Yeah,
definitely. Because obviously once you get moving with these kind of things, as soon as you pause it can really put like a spanner in the works. So yeah, the hope is that we can kind of, once we get going, it will keep moving. It doesn't necessarily have to move at a sprinting pace, but as long as it's moving, it's moving.
Yeah.
So as soon as that all gets going, it's going to be absolutely fantastic, the stuff we've got lined up.
Yeah. And just tell me why did it attract you so much to become involved with LooseHeadz?
Yeah. So sort of growing up, didn't really feel like I fitted in everywhere. Didn't really know sort of why and things like that. Kind of didn't really realise I had like mental health. Like you don't. I was like 17, 18 years old, just thought, oh, like I'm in college, I've gone to uni, like kind of thing. Maybe I'm just struggling with change. And it wasn't until I kind of realised like I was sad all the time. Like I'd just go and sit in my room when I was at uni and just kind of sit there and not do anything. And I was like, I'm sad. Why am I sad? Never really looked into it. And it wasn't until kind of I saw LooseHeadz and I was like, I wonder if like, is anything wrong? So I kind of looked a bit more deep into myself and thought about it a little bit deeper. And I kind of thought, oh, actually, I don't really like going out meeting people. I think I might like have anxiety or something. And then I started to like try and push myself into doing something. And I was like, oh no, I don't like that at all. And then it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, I do. So I originally...
Sorry to interrupt. How long a process are we talking here roughly, do you think?
So I'm not sure. I think I probably had anxiety through college, going into university as well. I kind of didn't really fit in with people. And I think that's probably why when I was at university, I didn't really click with a lot of people. And I think it's just because I was too anxious. I always made up excuses. If people were going out, I was like, oh no, I'm trying to give up alcohol. Those like stupid excuses where the next week you'd then be out drinking, but you'd be with like one person instead of 8 or 9 of you. And then obviously through that, you then kind of fall out with people because you're not socializing with them. They kind of think you're a bit of an odd bod being an outsider. But yeah, so that kind of side of the process. And then it was kind of over a couple of months when I kind of saw LooseHeadz and I started thinking to myself about it. It was over those couple of months that I then thought, oh, actually, maybe I have got something wrong. And I will admit, like openly now, like, yeah, I've had thoughts of suicide and things like that before in the past. I've never gone to speak to like a counsellor or a therapist about it because the one thing that I've got that got me through it is my now wife. I just decided one day I was just going to let it all out, just say it. And if she walked out and left me because she thought I was weird, fair enough. And if she sat there and listened to me, even better. And well, we got married in July, so she obviously listened and took it on board and helped me through it. And yeah, I mean, I'd never got to a stage where some people do, where they try and things like that. But obviously I got to that point where I really debated it at times. And yes, I dealt with the anxiety stuff and things like that. But yeah, you still get low some days and you still feel anxious some days. But it's how to treat it now. And without LooseHeadz, I wouldn't be able to do that because I wouldn't have thought it's okay to talk about it. So yeah, I mean, I thank them with all my life, like quite literally. Without knowing I could talk about it, we don't know where else I'd be. And I think that's the same for every Academy member.
Yeah. So you're finding that talking about this stuff is really helping you?
Yeah. And now I'm more open to talk about it because I want to help other people. I hope that me talking about it makes someone maybe walk away and the next day go and talk to their friend or tutor or teammate or something. At least it gets them talking. Even if they still feel like it, but at least someone else is aware. Because that other person will be like, should we have a coffee tomorrow? Oh, we'll go same time next week. And that's enough sometimes. And sometimes people have just got to break down. I mean, you can never be too hard to cry.
Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way. Yeah, I used to suppress all my emotions, and now I try and cry every now and then because you feel good after.
Yeah. Cleansing.
But yeah, I think, you kind of, it almost feels like you just get everything out. And then, if you don't cry again for another 6 months, you don't. But if you can get it out every now and then, it just refreshes your mind.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I completely agree. Well said. Okay, let's change tack a little bit now. What's that you're holding over there by your left hip?
Oh, this is my Harlequin's rugby ball.
Okay, so you're a Quins fan?
I am a Quins fan.
I know that because you showed me your Quins wall upstairs. Talk me through that and tell the people what you've collected.
Oh God! So starting off with LooseHeadz, the end of 2019, they ran a competition with signed Harlequins shirt. So I entered the competition and I won it, and it was just the best experience ever. So I won this signed shirt and some tickets to go and watch a game, which was brilliant because I took the missus to her first live rugby game. She's a Chiefs fan, so I took her to Quins versus Chiefs at the Stoop, and I just thought, right, she'll be really pleased. She's a bit annoyed because I've dragged her to a rugby game. She'll be pleased because it's Chiefs and they'll win, and then Quins go and win it, and it really did not go down well with her. So I got this nice signed shirt from them, and then from there, I've just built up this wall of Quins memorabilia to the Prem 15s and Premiership Cup final, like limited edition shirt, which is their London red, like away shirt. It's such a nice shirt. And I've kind of twisted Bex's arm a little bit to kind of buy me Quins merchandise here and there for me to frame it and stick it on this wall. To say I'm a fan is an understatement. I do enjoy watching Harlequins play.
Yeah, particularly at the end of the last season. Talk me through your semi-final and final experience.
So semi-final, watching it on TV, kind of knowing that Quins were going to go in fourth place, it was like, I'm going to watch this, support the boys, as you do always. But it's been a good run-ins. Like, we managed to really turn this season around from I think we were 7th or 8th place up to 4th. And I was like, that is a hell of a move. We've done that with no head coach. Amazing. So as everyone, like yourself as well, you're watching the game and you're like, this is the best game of rugby I've ever seen. It is back and forth, back and forth. It gets to full-time whistle and there's a draw, and it's like, oh my God, we're going into overtime. No one saw this coming at all. And obviously everyone now knows Quins obviously came out of that second half of the overtime with the win. Fourth place team now in the final, beating Bears, which were second place. I mean,
no, they were first.
Oh, they were first, weren't they? Yeah, first versus fourth. So beating Bears, so beating the top team of the table, and now going against either Chiefs or Sale. So you're looking at it and going, hope we get Sale. And obviously the next day, the worst thing in the world happened, or even the same day, the worst thing in the world happened, and Chiefs won. And everyone was like, oh no, Chiefs are going to get it's going to be on the trot. So Prem final comes along, and I went along to that with Dave and Rob, who are two of the co-founders of LooseHeadz, and then one of Dave's friends. And it was just the most fantastic experience being at Twickenham, being at Big Stoop and watching the final, surrounded by Chiefs fans. I was too scared to wear a Quins shirt, so I wore my Lions shirt. But luckily Lions were playing that day, so we went to the pub and watched that first. And it was a battle. I think the thing I remember most, is how crazy it was in Twickenham with only 20,000 fans allowed in there, and how loud it was. I've never heard a more empty stadium be so loud. Like, everyone who was there was passionate for their team. And that's what I love about rugby, is people eat, sleep, breathe rugby. And everyone in that stadium were those people. Quins get the win at the end, and I think I burst into tears. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're so weird." And I'm like, "But you don't understand this. Like, we haven't won since 2012. I was like, "You don't understand like how important this is." And yeah, Marla's interview at the end of that game kind of just explained it for every single fan on there, where he was just like, "It's so loud." He's like, "I can't hear you." I mean, for anyone who wasn't there, the noise that you could hear in the background when his interview was on was about 10% of the actual noise that was in there. It was so loud I couldn't hear the people next to me.
Wow.
And it was even like Chiefs fans clapping and cheering because of how good a game it was. And at the end of the game, yes, people were disappointed, people were like excited and thrilled. But at the end of the day, every single person was happy that we had fans back in a stadium. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I got to watch an incredible game of rugby.
Yeah, I would relive that day every year. I really would relive that day on the 26th of June every single year. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Love that passion. Love that passion. Well done. Now, we talked a little bit about your Quins stash, but that's really only scratching the surface.
Yes.
What else have you got up there?
What don't I have? Pretty much. So I've got a drawer of signed and limited edition stash. I've always liked funky old retro shirts. Anything that's a little bit different, I'll try and get. A lot of clubs put those kind of funky ones at a very expensive price, like a very steep price. So I get the ones I can. And then what I started doing is, on behalf of LooseHeadz, I kind of started like collecting signed memorabilia, and some I'd sell myself and then give the proceeds to LooseHeadz directly. Others I'd give to LooseHeadz and say, do with as you wish. It then became a point where I was like, well, if I'm buying these shirts, because everything's out of my own pocket, so if I'm sending a shirt to LooseHeadz, I've gone and bought this £40 shirt, I've then sent it to a player, I've got it and I've sent it to LooseHeadz. So I thought to myself, well, if I'm buying a £40 shirt, I might as well spend £80 and get myself one. And if they're going to sign 2 shirts, it's something for me to always remember that moment. So really quick list, and I probably won't hit all of them. I've got Dragons, Ospreys, Wasps, Quins. I've got a full squad Wales limited edition shirt. Rugby balls, I've got Chiefs, I've got the Welsh squad again. And then obviously I've got like sort of just limited edition shirts to the side of that. So like, again, Quins, Exeter, the new Wasp shirt and things like that. So it's all things that kind of mean a lot to me. I've run out of room to store everything now, and I've run out of wall space to hang everything. So it just kind of all lives in a drawer piled up, and every now and then I get it out and go, I might put this one in a frame. And then I remember the hassle of putting a shirt in a frame, so I just put it back in the drawer.
Yeah, you've described it as being all piled up, but you've still got the tags in all the shirts, so it's not like you're misplacing them or misusing them. They're your treasures, really, aren't they?
Oh yeah, the tags can never come out, and I will wear the shirt with the tag in, and then it will go back and it will be okay, not piled. It'll be folded up with the tags back into the drawer. Yeah, I do enjoy. Everyone's got a hobby.
Yeah.
And that's my hobby.
Nice. I love it. Super fan, really passionate. That's great. Okay, let's move on to the rugger law bore section.
Okay.
Just a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Always say nobody knows all the laws. I don't think even the top referees know every single law. There's so many. So it's just to maybe help educate a little bit, but most of all, it's just a little bit of fun.
Okay.
So how would you rate your law knowledge, Joey?
10 being amazing?
Yep.
About a 4. There's a reason why I'm a winger. I don't have to get involved in most of the game. But I'll do my best.
Okay. Well, in that case, it's time to find out. Joey Milburn, are you a rugger law bore?
Sir, are you sure that's correct?
Team A are awarded a free kick.
Okay.
They elect to take a scrum for that free kick.
Mm-hmm.
The ball goes into the scrum. It goes back to the number 8. The scrum half passes backwards and the fly half drops a goal. Ball drop kicks the ball between the sticks and over the crossbar. What does the referee do?
Surely the referee is going to award the drop goal for that. I can't think of a reason why he wouldn't. This is unfair. You've given me a question that involved forwards. Yeah, that's all I can think is. So Team A, ball's gone in. Team A have won the ball back. 9's passed to 10. 10's drop gold. It's gone through the sticks. Yeah, drop goal awarded.
Incorrect.
Incorrect.
Yeah, It's not correct. No. So essentially, because came from a free kick, there has to be another phase of play before you can kick a drop goal. So the ball has to either touch the opposition or there be some kind of a tackle or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Before the drop goal can be completed. So, with that bit of knowledge, what do you think happens after the ball has gone through the post and over the crossbar?
Does it then go to Team B, gets the ball at the 20?
Nope.
No?
It's actually just play on.
Just play on?
Just play on, yeah. So if the ball stays in play...
But obviously if it goes dead ball, then Team B
would get
come back to the...
drop out 22 or whatever. But yeah, no, it's just essentially, it's just play on.
Oh.
Interesting one, that, isn't it? No, I've never seen it happen.
I don't think... Yeah. How very strange.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Joey, you're not a rugger law bore.
No. That's a shame.
It's not really. Most people are quite happy not to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. That is a very, very strange law.
Yeah, that's a tough question, that one, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, thanks for that.
That's quite niche, that.
Yeah. I'm gonna use that one at the next training session.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to the quick fire stash questions. Mm-hmm. What is your favourite bit of kit that you've ever been given?
My Harlequins signed LooseHeadz arranged shirt.
Yeah, that's a beauty.
Yeah, it had a lot of meaning behind that one.
Yeah, good for you. Next question. What is your favourite kit of all time? So this could be any team from any era.
So obviously I didn't want to stick with Harlequins, but I was trying to think about this one, and it's got to be the 150 year anniversary Harlequins home kit with the gold emblem for the badge. It's just beautiful. Besides that, I'd probably say probably Chiefs' new kit with like the sort of oil on water effect. I think that's just so different for a home rugby kit. And I do like that one.
That was a cool, good answer. And lastly, have you got a current stash crush, or alternatively, is there a kit that you think is awful and should be incinerated?
My current kit stash crush at the moment is probably the GB7's kit. So not sure if you're aware, but the women's have just won the Fast Four, and the men's came second in the HSBC 7 series in Edmonton in Canada. And their kit's just really plain and simple. It is just blue or red, National Lottery on the front, and then GB7 kind of pattern on it. It's very, very simple. The reason why it's my stash crush is because obviously England pulled out the funding on them, so it was all self-funded. And I think to have them still be able to play, that's why it's my crush, because it's the teams itself, and the fact that they've got a shirt because they're now funded by Team GB. I mean, it's got to be a winner.
Yeah, well done. Good, nice answer. So as we come towards the end here, have you got any kind of final thoughts or things that you would like to sort of say?
Yeah, definitely. So if anyone here like listening's got Instagram, follow LooseHeadz and follow LooseHeadz Academy on there. You can keep up to date with everything that we're doing, and through that we're always posting like where you can get help and just some fun facts and random facts as well, which we try and keep it fun in the academy, and obviously LooseHeadz being kind of our umbrella. It's very informative. As well as that, obviously I live in Devon, so if any local rugby clubs, schools, colleges, universities, anything, I'll even tailor things for football clubs and cricket. If you want a presentation on what LooseHeadz is about and how you can find it and how you can get help, then let me know. Like, drop the LooseHeadz Academy a message. I run it, so I'll pick up that message. Or just search me on Instagram, Joey Milburn, and I'm more than happy to pick it up and help out wherever I can, pretty much.
Yeah, Joey, that's brilliant. Look, I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I think it's really meaningful, and I think it'll help a lot of people. So lastly, just thank you from me for that and for taking the time to be on the podcast. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joey. Even as someone who loves rugby as much as I do, you know, sometimes I can feel a bit stale or jaded with the constant politics that's going on in the game, or some of the negative tactics that have been used in the last few years. But speaking to someone like Joey, it just reaffirms love of the game from the grassroots all the way up. So I love that, Joey. Thanks so much, mate. Now, the Amateur Rugby Podcast is going to start sharing some videos from the Great Rugger Run. I recorded a load of interviews at clubhouses across the country, and I'm going to be sharing these on the YouTube channel. Did you know we've got a YouTube channel? I say we, it's just me. So yeah, get on YouTube, search for the Amateur Rugby Podcast, and hit the subscribe button if you can. There's loads of videos that are going to be coming out over the coming months, and I'd love it if you could see them. I'll be back with you next week when my guest will be Wadebridge Camels head coach Mike Rawlings. Mike is a Cornish rugby legend, and he was a huge amount of fun to talk to. Subscribe in your podcast player to ensure you don't miss next week's powerful episode. Now, yes, as I mentioned, I did try some surfing this week down in Imsuan, and I'm not sure if it was the surfboard that wasn't big enough or my wetsuit was too tight, but yeah, I just wasn't very good. I caught some waves, but I didn't manage to stand up once. And I've surfed a few times before, and I've stood up every time previously, so I'm going to blame the wetsuit, I think. That's the problem. But yes, here in Morocco, hopefully going to get back to the UK in time for a wedding before Christmas, and then Christmas with the family. But there's quite a lot of travel restrictions at the moment, and I've had a couple of flights cancelled already. I've got another one booked, which hasn't been cancelled yet. So I'm hopeful that I'll manage to make it back. But stay tuned next week to see how my travel adventures are going and see whether I get home in time for Christmas. And talking of Christmas, if you haven't got presents sorted yet, then you can check out my rugby Christmas gift list on amateurrugbypodcast.com/Xmas for some great rugby gifts this Christmas. Now, if you've enjoyed this podcast, you could rate and review on your podcast player. But what I'd really like is if you can mention it to someone in person the next time you're down your local rugby club. Hope everyone enjoys the last few games before the holidays. Keep safe, and until next week, get out and play.
This episode was also sponsored by WebPie for all your WordPress website needs. Do you need a website, or do you know someone that does? Trust the rugby family and think of my company, WebPie, that's WEBPI, for your WordPress website design, build and support services.
Find out more at webpi.co. That's webpi.co.